Hello, everyone. So, if you're still in this class after last week, I hope that you are doing your work and I hope that you are staying caught up. Um, just understand that, if you're not caught up, catching up is hard to do on this level. So, you need to really make sure that you try and get caught up. Um, so, this week we start the 20th century and we will take this rest of the semester through the 20th and into the 21st century, really. And we're going to start seeing a lot more diverse authors than what we've seen the first 10 weeks. But still, you know, Queen Victoria dies around 1901. So that's when the Victorian age, quote unquote, comes to an end. Her son, George, would take over, and he would rule, and he was a bit of a dandy. And so the Georgian period, as it's called, was a time of great patriotism, a time of, hey, England is like a paradise. Why would you ever want to live anywhere other than England, kind of thing. And this would have lasted forever, but in 1914, World War One breaks out. And so um, we're going to take a look at World War One. We're going to take a look at the introduction to the 20th century because World War One is when English authors start ramping up the writing again. And what happens during World War One is that England itself is hardly touched by any fighting. Right, most of the fighting happened in places like France and places like Germany and places in that part of the continent. Spain had its own civil war going on, so you had all of this happening over in that part of Europe, but not much going on in England. But England decided that it wanted to join the war and fight, Kaiser Wilhelm and, the rest of the Germans. And so they put together a little propaganda campaign about how great it would be to die for one's country and how noble it is to die for one's country. And it's a wonderful thing. And they found this poet, Rupert Brooke, who was a very handsome young man who ended up being the face of the English, World War One propaganda machine. And so he writes this poem, The Soldier, where he says, hey, if I die for my country, think beautifully of me. And oh, by the way, if I get buried in foreign soil, there's a part of England that's a part of that country, and that country's soil will be the better for it. And so he tries to make dying for one's country sound glamorous. Problem is, dying is not glamorous under any circumstances, right? Dying is messy, dying is painful, dying is scary. And so we got two other authors that take the other side of that debate. Siegfried Sassoon, he had his success during World War One. He really kind of fell out of popularity and didn't have a whole lot of success after World War One. But World War One, he wrote these two poems, They and the Glory of Women, where he says, okay, women, in Glory of the Women, he's going to say, okay, women, you think it's wonderful that we're dying for you and we're fighting for you. But if we do die for you, you just go on to the next guy. So what's the big deal for you, right? You know, uh, you love us when we're over there dying and fighting for you, but then you don't love us so much when we return home, and that's where they comes in. They is about the men that come back with missing legs, and they come back wounded, they come back blinded. They come back with all these war injuries, and they say, well, what did we do this for, right? Our lives are ruined, and uh, a priest who is a priest in the Church of England will say, well, God works in mysterious ways. He wanted you to be wounded. He wanted you to be lame for the rest of your life. And so that's kind of a weird way to look at it. And then Wilfred Owen, he gets pretty graphic in his uh, Dulce el decorum est, which is Latin for it is sweet to die for one's country. Um, he is going to have a very graphic description of a battle in which a man dies in a very horrific way as other people watch helplessly and can't help him, right? The injuries that he's going to suffer that's going to cause him to die, just there's no help for it. And he's going to say, okay, you want to sit here and tell me that it's great to die for one's country. If you'd seen what I'd just seen, you would totally disagree with that. So that's the debate there. There's not a project or a writing assignment this week. All I want you to do this week is to, take a break since you did all that Victorian stuff, that Victorian exam last week. Read these poems, take the reading quiz, and then answer the discussion board question, which does ask the question, is dying for one's country a glorious way to go? And of course, we're applying that to, the 21st century in the United States now. So that's this week, the World War One poets. Um, Again, if you have any questions, always feel free to email me or contact me, and I'll be glad to help you out in any way I can.